Breaking the Silence Together podcast. Today's talk, I want to talk about, I believe that it's going to resonate with a lot of people because it's the core of a lot of reasons why mental illness surfaces up for a lot of people. It's the core reason why addiction surfaces up for a lot of individuals. Today's talk is going to be kind of raw, really core digging, because talking with a lot of individuals, not just my clients, not just my community, but just talking with people in general. The conversation that we're going to have today really hits home for a lot, and it's going to be the core reason, the core factor, the core that's probably going to bring back a lot of thoughts, a lot of reasons, a lot of yes and no's to some people that are going to listen to my podcast. And for anyone out there that doesn't know who I am, my name is Jeannie Perez, and I am the founder of an organization called You're Not Alone. The organization supports mental illness, anyone that's struggling with mental illness, and anyone that's struggling with any type of an addiction. We support individuals 200% by providing all free services. And when I say free services, I'm talking about professional services from a therapist to a counselor. And we also provide advocates that would be assigned to individuals and meet them where they're at in their journey so they can get the help that they need and they continue on this journey with them and just become almost family to them. And we provide digital products, from ebooks, from resources, tools and resources. You name it, I'm trying to have it, and I'm hoping that I do have everything that anyone needs to help them out. And if I don't, please let me know. And that website to You're Not Alone is www.you'renotalone.online. Please check us out, see what's in there. Maybe there is something there that can benefit you, maybe there isn't. And if there is, take advantage of it. And if you know someone that can use any of our tools and resources or our services, please pass it on to them. With that being said, I want to get to today's topic. And again, like I said, I know a lot of times my podcast is a little raw, so if it's not for you, it's okay. You don't have to listen to it. But if it is for you, please listen and try to benefit from it. And let me know if there's anything else that I can help you with after our podcast or after you listen to it. Today's podcast, the topic that I thought would really shine a light on a lot if they heard it in this way, is addiction starts before the substance. What the inner child knew. And the reason why I said it that way is because really what we're talking about here today is going to be about the inner child in us, the inner child in you, that really is the root and the cause of the way life came out, the way life was outcome for you, the way your journey took you, because of that inner child. And I had a conversation with a neighbor of mine, and that's really what pushed me to do this podcast today. I mean, I've heard different reasons, different stories on how the inner child works for individuals, and every story I heard was different. But I never really had put anything together to really talk about that, because there is so many different ways that this can be brought into a conversation that I really never knew how to really put it into a little 30-minute or 45-minute chat, because there's so much that goes on in childhood with so many people, so many individuals. But I had this talk with my neighbor. She's a retired FBI agent, which they deal with a lot of different situations that people go in life, and that's the reason why they do what they do in life. Most of the time, the core of it is childhood. They're brought up, their trauma. So I don't know how this conversation even came up with me and her, but we were just talking outside. I went to go get my mail, and she was out there, and she was walking by with her dog, and we just started talking. And she just asked me, like, what are you doing? I know you're always up to something new, Jeannie, so what are you working on now? So then I told her. And she said, wow, that's amazing. She said, I worked in the FBI, for over 35 years. And you would think that you heard it all, but you didn't. There's always something else out there going on with someone. She said, but when I used to interview these suspects, that did certain things, and we would get to the root sometimes, to figure out what was going on with these individuals and why they're doing what they're doing. She said a lot of it had to do with their childhood, a lot of things that weren't answered, a lot of things that they never got answers for. They just found it in a different way, and it just didn't wind up the way they wanted it to wind out, They were looking for the fulfillment, that answer to why they were going through life the way they were going through, and they never did. They just started doing things against life. And when she said that to me, against life, those words just really stood with me. And I really said, and I looked at her and I said, wow, I never looked at it like that. And sometimes people's outcomes and their actions is really it's not really them trying to hurt themselves, but it's really them fighting against the world. And she said, yeah, Jeannie, that's really what a lot of it has to do. There's a lot of them, no one really wants to hurt themselves with, a mental illness where they start hurting themselves, or an addiction where they just start fading away more and more. She said, nobody really wants to do that, Jeannie. But that's just their way of coping and fighting against the world. And I said, you know what? I really need to talk about this because I've never looked at it that way. That these individuals that are dealing with mental illness or an addiction because of childhood, because of their inner child that they never were able to grow away from. Their actions was never to hurt themselves with the type of life that they winded up on, the type of journey that life took them on. It was always because that was their survival mode. That was their way of coping with the world, them against the world. So today's episode, if that resonates with you, because you're dealing with situations because of your inner child that you have not been able to detach from, you have not been able to grow away from, this episode is for you. And like I said, this topic really, really is entailed for a longer conversation than the 30 minutes or 40 minutes that I'm going to be on here today. But I'm definitely going to put something together on this because it's really, really important that people understand the root of individuals that are dealing with this inner child survival mode. It's really, really serious. It's really deep. And it's really, really rough on them. And it's something that I don't think that a lot of us understand the core root of this and how effective and how damaging this can be in someone's life. And it just really is. And I already have a book on my site on the inner child, but it's not as deep as the information that I put together now after talking to my neighbor that's an FBI agent for 35 years, and she dealt with this. And she brought it up to me, and the way she brought it up to me was the inner child fighting against the world. And that's just something that I really want to put more time into. So I'm definitely going to put something together, whether it's a book or information. And like I said, if after you listen to my podcast today, or this is something that you really want more information on or more tools and resources, reach out to me, because I'm definitely going to be putting a book together on this with my team, definitely. Because I really do think it's something that really needs to be out there for individuals that need more information or just need more support on this aspect. So with that being said, I would just want to start out by saying I know that a lot of us that are dealing with this inner child are asking ourselves, like, why me? Why am I the one struggling like this? Why did I become this, I'm addicted to this life that I'm in now, right now, with an addiction on drugs or an addiction to alcohol, you know, why me? How did this start? When did this start? You know, when did this war against the world start with me? And if this is you, then this episode is definitely for you. You know, because the truth is, you know, doing my research, dealing with my clients, but really talking with my neighbor on this. The truth is that the addiction doesn't start within a substance. It really doesn't. The addiction with this inner child that a lot of individuals are dealing with on a daily basis, when this first started for them, it didn't start with substance. And I want to repeat that because it didn't. It started with their nervous system. You know, the nervous system is one thing that really just lives within us. And this is something that I always say, the nervous system lives within you. And those are where your actions are coming. You know, your actions, your emotions, your daily basis, everything that you're doing with, you know, come from your nervous system. It starts out with your brain. Everything you feed to your brain overflows into your nervous system. So this addiction for the inner child, this addiction for this child didn't start with the substance. They were a child. What did they know about substance abuse? What did they know about getting high, getting drunk? They were a child. So it didn't start with a substance. It started with their nervous system. You know, trying to survive in silence. You know, what I call silence mode, flight mode, survival mode. It started with their nervous system trying to protect them. Because this is a child we're talking about. You know, this is where it started. You know, as an adult, yeah, it becomes your inner child. But when it starts out, you're a child. And you're trying to figure things out. You know, because of what's going on in your life. It could be a trauma that you're dealing with when you were a child. It could be an absence of a parent. Sometimes some children are hit really hard with that. Some don't, but some children it does affect them. The absence of a parent. It could be just a neglection that they felt from either one parent that they had or both. You know, they just felt neglected all the time. It could be a loneliness that was brought onto them. Or it could just feel as they felt as though they were abandoned for some reason when they were a child. So many different things can bring on this inner child aspect. You know, they can just start growing into these situations as a child for so many reasons that, you know, me sitting here for hours probably can't even say every reason, because every child is different, every person is different. But only you that are dealing with this inner child situation, this inner child nervous survival mode that you're living in, only you know the reason. And, you know, when you were growing up, you might have been going through where you were really obsessive with being perfectionist. You know, maybe in school, in the early years of school, you had that obsession where you had to do everything perfect. Or just, you know, hiding stuff underneath your bed to make you feel comfortable. You know, a lot of us as children, we find comfortability, you know, we feel comfortable in eating, you know, like our favorite things, whether it's candy, but you're hiding it because, you know, you really can't have it all the time. Or maybe it's some kind of cake or something, you got to hide it underneath your bed, you know, to eat it when you want to feel that comfortability, when you feel secure, you pull out that candy or that cake. Or you just start overeating. You know, I know a lot of children just overeat. That's their security. That's how they feel safe. That fills in that gap of them feeling lonely or abandoned. And a lot of them, you know, they just start daydreaming of that life that they wish that they had, or that family that they wish that they belonged to. And sometimes it hurts so hard to come back to reality for them, and it just pushes them into depression, into anxiety as a child. And just being the overthinker all the time, or you just always want to be the fixer, or you want to be the one that knows it all. Or you might just have been the one that was always quiet because of this, you know? You were the silencer of the whole pack. You know, you were the silencer of the whole circle. It's a lot of ways that your nervous system starts protecting you, because you feed into yourself, into your brain, that no one's coming to regulate this pain. So you have to figure out, so you're saying to yourself that you need to figure out how to do this, how to help yourself, how to, you know, find that security blanket, or find that comfort zone when you feel like this, when you're feeling alone, when you're feeling abandoned. When you were a child, that's how your nervous system reacted, because you started saying that to yourself, like, no one's coming to help me with this, no one's coming to save me from this. So your mind starts running and your nervous system starts reacting, and you start reacting the way that you're starting to feel. So you're looking for security. And a lot of times, you know, security would have been to you as a child, maybe was your favorite stuffed animal. You slept with them, or you started hugging them every time you felt this sneak up on you throughout the day when you were a child. Maybe it was your favorite blanket that you had to wrap around yourself to really calm yourself down at times. Maybe it was a favorite robe or a favorite shirt, or just sitting in your room by yourself, if that's the only place where you felt secure and safe. It's a lot that our children go through. It's a lot that children go through. It's a lot that you went through as a child that goes unseen, because it goes unheard. And because of those years that we had to live like that, those years that you had to live like that, you know, fighting the world on your own, because no one was listening, no one was helping you, no one came to save you from your trauma that you were trying to fight, or maybe the trauma you kept being faced with on a daily basis. Or maybe that abandonment that you felt, or that absence of a parent that you went through all your life. Because of these situations, they go on for so long in your body, you know. Remember, you're building this throughout the years, and your brain is being filled with these emotions on a day-to-day for years and years, until you become an adult, or until you're able to really figure out different other ways to cope with this feeling, besides those actions that you were taking when you were a child. You know, when you were a child, you didn't know nothing about substance abuse or things that you could have did to help you or ease you with this pain. You know, when you're a child, you're just thinking about your room, maybe a teddy bear, maybe a blanket, maybe a shirt, because you were a child. You knew no different. But what you did know was that you was in some type of pain. It was bothering you. And you knew you was fighting against it because no one was there to help you, no one was coming to help you. That you didn't know, even though you were a child and you were fighting with this. And your nervous system was helping you, protecting you in survival mode. When you become an adult, and when you became an adult, you started seeing things in a different way, and you started learning different ways that you could have coped with this. It might help you even deeper than what your things were helping you with when you was a child. And that's where things start falling apart for us as an adult. You know, when you're dealing with the inner child is still that child when it started. But you are growing into this adult. Now you're an adult. The emotions, the trauma, the loneliness, the abandonment is still sitting in your mind, still sitting in your brain. Your nervous system is still functioning based on that. But you as a person, you're growing as an adult. but your mind and your nervous system is not growing with you. And that's why your actions, even though now you're 18 or you became an adult, your actions are still being done in behalf of that inner child that you still have within you, that you have not learned to cope with or outgrow. And because of that reason that you're still not learning how to cope with this inner child or grow away from this inner child actions or reactions or emotions, some of us fall into a very deep depression or anxiety. And that's where, we either start over-medicating ourselves, self-medicating ourselves to help us cope with the pain, or that's where an addiction falls in place and we start feeding ourselves with strong sedatives, strong substances that can help us with this pain. And that's where we start falling into the gaps of mental illness and addiction, because of this inner child that we have within that we still don't know how to cope with. This inner child within that is still running our life for us because we still haven't been able to get the help that we need to outgrow this inner child and become the grown-up that we are right today and the person that we really want to be. But because we've been in survival mode for so long and fighting the world, it's this inner child against the world for so long, that a lot of us don't know how to get away from that. And we just feed in deeper and deeper into our addiction, into our mental illness. And a lot of us don't get the help that we need. I know we're falling into these mental illnesses and these addictions, but we don't reach out for professional help because that's not something that we ever did. We didn't even tell our loved ones what was going on with us. We just dealt with it on ourselves, with ourselves. And we always been against the world on our own. Because, we always said in our mind, no one's coming to help us. No one's saving me. I got to save myself. And that's how you learn to save yourself. As you became an adult, you learned how to save yourself by self-medicating yourself or getting into a deeper addiction. And when we fall into this as an adult, what do? Now we're an adult. And we're no longer being able to cope with this by just grabbing our favorite blanket or going into a locked room or grabbing our favorite stuffed animal. What do we do now? We're an adult. Now we're addicted to something. We have mental illness too because we're dealing with this depression and anxiety that brought this inner child has brought onto me. But not only do I have a mental illness now, but now I have an addiction that I have to deal with on a daily basis. How do I go back? How do I go back? How do I get away from this? And this is something that we have to really, really pause ourselves, because now you're an adult, and I understand that inner child within you is still taking over your life. That inner child within you is the one that's really controlling you on a day-to-day basis. Even though maybe now you're an adult, you're working or whatever, you're doing what adults normally do on a daily basis besides what this inner child has put you into, whether it's an addiction and mental illness. We still have to figure out what we need to do, because we can't live with this inner child within us forever. We have to learn how to get our coping skills, get our professional help so we can grow away from this inner child and become the person that we're supposed to be. We got to let go of that inner child. They can't continue to run our life for us. And I know a lot of people are saying right now, well, that's easy for you to say, but it's not hard for someone that's dealing with this inner child for 20 or 30 years, 40 or 50, who knows? And I get it. And I know that it's not going to be something that I can say, okay, you're going to be able to let go of your inner child overnight. Because I know the facts that's not true. This is a process that takes time. not just with us coming in tune with reality and realizing what the root was, what happened to us as a child. But this is something that we have to grow, we have to learn how to grow away from. How to become this different person besides this child that I was. And that is still me, within me. It's a process. It really is. Because I've dealt with people that are dealing with this and are still dealing with this. And it's a process. And it's a process that takes a lot of commitment. You know, but the first step is we have to regulate. We have to regulate that emotion that caused within us. And we have to, yes, we do have to go back. And we do need to talk to this inner child, you know, that's living within us still. And we have to reconnect with that inner child within us. And when I say reconnect, we have to learn how it started. We have to remember how it started, because sometimes it's been so long that you've been living, this inner child has been living within you, that the root cause is faded away, not in a way that the pain has faded away, but the root cause of it. You have been able to really fade yourself away from the cause. Not your emotions, not your reactions, but the reason why it started. And that's why I say that we really need to reconnect with ourselves, with that inner child. Talk to that inner child and see, how can you go forward from this? How can you grow from this? You know, what is it that I need to do now as an adult to regulate myself from this inner child? To be able to grow away from this inner child and become an adult as I am today, without any dependency, to be able to help me fade away or hide or numb myself from this inner child pain that I've been dealing with all my life. And when I say grow away from it without any dependency, I mean, if this inner child has brought you into an addiction, then it means trying, get that first step out. Reach out for help to be recovered from this. Get recovered from your addiction. That's going to be the first step to learn how to cope and grow away from this inner child. If it's a mental illness that you're dealing with every day because of this situation and you just can't figure it out, and it's just taking you deeper and deeper in, reach out and get some help so that you can learn how to cope with this in a healthy way. Because, a Band-Aid, putting a Band-Aid over this, covering up, and just saying to yourself, well, I lived with all my life, I'm just going to go keep on living life the way I can, the best that I can right now. And I'm just going to keep doing it. It's been doing okay for me. You might be saying that to yourself because you've been dealing with this and you feel as though there is no other way. But there is another way. And the other way is getting help and living healthy and becoming this healthy individual that you know you want to be and that you can be. Because we all can grow and reset ourselves from this inner child that's lived within us. And, your nervous system can be reset. And once you're able to wrap your head around that and learn how to reset your nervous system from these feelings that are no longer needed to be protected from, you're no longer in that trauma, you're no longer feeling alone or abandoned because now you know the truth. Now you're an adult. Now you're able to put the pieces together and really bring reality to the picture, bring reality out into what really happened to you. And realize that, no, you're not broken, and what happened to you while you was a child was not your fault. And you made it till today, and you've been protecting yourself, and you did a good job, and I'm proud of you. And now is to take that strength that you helped yourself with all these years, fighting this inner child, fighting this world on your own, and put that strength in rebuilding yourself back, giving yourself that strength, and being able to pull away from that inner child so that you can live your life at your terms, live the life that you want to live. But the most important thing is to really reconnect with that inner child and figure out what is healing to you. What is recovery to you? How are you going to be able to fill in these gaps that you've been filling in with either the substance abuse, or be able to fill in the gaps that get away, and get the healing for this mental illness? And the first thing I said, like I tell everybody, we have to be able to talk to ourselves. That's going to be the best conversation you're going to have, because I believe that that's the way that we really, really are true with ourselves. And we really are able to figure out the root of our situation. And once we do that, then we're able to reach out for the help and get the help that we need. And we're sure that we're going to be able to heal from exactly what put us in this. So we have to really figure out what was really the cause of that inner child. What woke that inner child up? What started that? What was the cause that as when you became an adult made you go into this addiction? What was the real cause that when you got, all these years you've been dealing with mental illness? You really have to go down to the raw core of the situation to be able to get the proper help that you need. But it is really important that you do that so that you can grow away from this inner child and live life at your own terms, live life the way you want to be, and get healed in a healthy way or recover in a healthy way. We first have to get rid of this inner child that still lives within us. And sometimes a lot of the memories that we carry, we have to really just get rid of them. And just start bringing in these good memories that we're starting our life out with. Bring new memories into your life. Do different things. And just try to just fade away that inner child that continues to just torture you within. Get the help that you need. Put a plan together. And stay consistent with it. Because this inner child that's still living in with you, you're going to be able to reset that child. You're going to be able to reset those memories in your mind. You're going to be able to reset that nervous system. And you're going to be able to live life at your terms. You're going to be able to be happy. You're not going to have to no longer keep putting up borders or, fighting against the world so they don't know what you're going through, because you've been going on with this since you were a child. Unfortunately, when you were a child and you realized that nobody was coming to save you from this, you really didn't know how to get help. Besides the help you thought you were giving yourself by protecting yourself with these, barriers or this isolation you put yourself in, or this overeating, or just being an overachiever. You didn't know how to stop all that because that was the way you were being able to really survive. That's the only thing you knew how to do. But remember, you were a child. There's no blame on that. There's no shame on that. You were doing what you needed to do at that moment. And that's the only thing you knew best. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. But now that you're an adult, and just sit down, pause with yourself, and figure out the root of it so that you can get help and you can become healthy. It's never too late to get help for a mental illness. It's never too late to get help for an addiction. And it's never too early. But with the conversation that we're having today with the inner child, I know that normally this situation is being lived out for many years before we get the help that we need, or before we realize that we can help ourselves in a different way besides the way that we've been doing it for all our lives. Besides, being addicted to any substance, or besides really putting ourselves in this black tunnel with this mental illness. Now as an adult, you can figure out and get the help that you need. It's going to help you in a positive way, in a healthy way, to become the adult that you are and no longer have to carry around that inner child. And I'm hoping that someone is listening to me today that can really resonate and relate to this conversation and really use my words, tools, and my resources to benefit you. Because I know this inner child is real, And I know this inner child does a lot of damage to individuals before they realize that there is help out there, before they realize of a different way to help themselves. I know this inner child does a lot of damage. But I want you to know that no matter how long you've been living with this inner child, it's never too late to reset yourself. It's never too late to get the help that you need so that you can live a healthy life. I know some people sometimes, don't really like when people are saying things that they're dealing with, because and then they're being hit with reality, they're being hit with the truth. But unfortunately on my podcast or anywhere, because if you talk to me, whether it's my podcast or anywhere, I'm always being truthful. I'm never sugarcoating anything, because I always feel as though in life, the way you learn the realities of life or the reality of yourself as an individual, you have to know the truth. Whether it's dealing with yourself or dealing with someone else, the truth is going to always be your best way of life. I know some people don't like that because they don't like to deal with the truth. A lot of times, like people say, the truth hurts. But you know what? The truth is really what sets us all free from life in general. From mistakes that we make, from actions that we want to take, but we really shouldn't. When we know the truth, we realize we shouldn't have. And that's just part of life. And I feel as though, that's just who I am. I never lie about anything. And the reason people say, you never lie about everything. I said, no. Even raising up my kids, or even when I was a child, I would tell my parents the truth. Whether it was something bad or good, I've always been really truthful to my parents. And, it wasn't always a good outcome for me when I was being truthful to my parents. But you know what? I always felt that was the best way to live. And even raising my kids, I raised them with always telling them, tell me the truth always, because unless I know the truth, I'll never know how to help you. And there's never nothing too bad. Nothing is too bad where as a family we can't overcome it. We can always work things out and fix it as a family. And that's just something that I always live by. And as I'm saying, like right now, as this topic that we're on, the inner child, I just think it's really important that someone that's dealing with this inner child for so many years to just really talk to yourself. Be honest with yourself and figure out how, in little words, how can you get rid of this inner child that's been living your life for you, so that you can become this healthy person that you can become and live life at your own terms and just live life free without hiding in the silence anymore, without hiding behind this inner child anymore. So, if you're listening to my podcast and this is something that really is nothing for you, you're just listening, please share this, because it's probably someone that that's really dealing with this, but you're just not noticing it. They're not saying it. They know how to hide this very good. Just share my stuff. Share my talk with someone. Just forward it. Or share anything that might be on my site or on my social media, because we just never know who you might help. You just never know who just might have needed to see what you sent them. Because you never know what they were thinking or what they were about to do with themselves. We live in a very unsafe, very unpredictable world. And, a lot of us just wish that we can help everyone. Like myself, I wish I could help everyone and really read through everyone and say, okay, you're dealing with this, look, I can help you, or look, you no longer have to do this. But we don't know who out there really needs our help unless they come forward about it. We don't know with our loved ones sometimes what they're dealing with unless they talk it out with us. So that's why I say it's always important to just bring up conversations with your loved ones or people in general that you're around, and just try to really tune in with the feedback that you get, or just really listen to people's emotions, just looking at how they're reacting to certain things. Really stay in tune with the people that you love. I just think it's so important that we just really stay focused and really watch out from afar if we have to, but really watch the way our loved ones are reacting, or just people that you're around. Just watch them. it's just, sometimes it's right there in our face, right in front of us. These situations that people are dealing with, but we're just not looking deep enough. Or we're just not questioning enough. Or we're just not interacting enough with our individual people that we see every day, or our loved ones. We're just not interacting. And I say all the time, why wait till the minute something happens to say, oh my God, what could I have done? Or what could I have said? Try your best now when you can. That's all any of us can ever do, is just try our best. And I say, just try your best with your loved ones and anyone that you're around on a daily basis. Interact more, ask more. Like people say, be nosy a little bit more. Sometimes we have to do that to really figure out things and help someone. We just got to be a little more nosier than we normally are. Just step on some toes sometimes. Sometimes that's what it takes to really get information out, or really figure out certain things that are happening in people's lives. But the most important thing is that at the end of the day, you was able to help someone. Whether it got them mad or not, you were still able to help them out, or you were able to get them to open up. Sometimes it takes not always, happiness or a good ending story before someone gets help. Sometimes it might take you arguing with someone to say, oh, look, you need help, get it. That little fight might have just turned them around and they finally want to help themselves now. Sometimes that's what it takes. But what I'm saying to you, if you're not the one dealing with this, sometimes from us, an individual, just takes a little bit more caring, a little bit more getting involved. And if it is you that are dealing with this situation, with this inner child, an addiction or a mental illness, please show up for yourself now. Stop living in this inner child world and fight back. Reach out for help. Get the help that you need. Because you're going to be able to be the adult, the person that you want to be. And you're going to be able to cope, get the coping skills, and get a plan put together to grow away from this inner child. I know it's been a long time you've been carrying this inner child, and it's easier said than done, and I get it. But it's possible. But it takes you making the first step and reaching out for help to make it possible. And remember, like I always said, it always takes us to really love ourselves unconditionally to make things happen the way we want it to happen in our life. Because remember, we predict every moment that happens in our life. When I say predict, I don't mean like, oh my God, there's really bad news that you got or something that happened. No, we can't predict that. But our actions and what we do for ourselves, every minute, like me picking up this cup, I was able to predict that motion, that reflex with my arm, my brain. I fed it into my brain that I wanted to pick up this cup, and I picked it up. We're able to live life the way we want to. Life at our terms. Every action that we do every day, we feed that into our brain. Our brain helps us out to do the motions, whether it's walking, talking, starting something new. So what I'm trying to say with that is that life is what we make it to be. And I know a lot of people don't like that sometimes when I say that, because life isn't too good for them right now. And they might say, well, I didn't want this type of life I had, but I had to live it. I get it. But we have to really come in tune with ourselves and become strong for ourselves and show up for ourselves when life is not the way we want it to be. We have to push ourselves out of that. And we have to really just wrap on to that life that we want and figure out, how do we get it? What do I need to do to get it? And that's what I mean when I say that we're in control of our life. Life is what we make it. That's what I mean. You know, it's really heartbreaking. You know, just every time when I'm putting stuff together for my podcast, I'm getting information from neighbors, from the community, from my clients that deal with this situation for years. They might be retired from it. And just hearing the stories, you know, from them, or just the things with my clients, it's heartbreaking. What individuals go through for so long in life before they come up out of it for a breath of air that they feel as though it's a breath of hope. They've been drowning for so long with no air. Just holding it in. And a lot of them pass out. And when I say pass out, because they're holding their breath for so long, they pass out and they fall into these mental illnesses, or they pass out and they fall into these addictions. And they're just breathing, they're not living. Because they don't know what living is. Because they feel as though no one cares, and they're just living day by day, going deeper into a mental illness, or just going deeper into this addiction, because they feel as though that's their comfort zone, that's their only safety in life, that's their survival against the world. And it's so sad, it's very heartbreaking, because a lot of them just don't know how to get the help. They feel as though there's no support out there, and the numbers we're losing, and I say this all the time, and I will continue to say it. We're losing beautiful souls by the second to mental illnesses because they were drowning and didn't know how to come up for air. And they've been drowning for life, a lifetime, with no air, no oxygen. They just trying to breathe, but they really weren't. They were drowning and living life with no air. And that's the same thing. We're losing beautiful souls by the second, drowning without no air, not coming up for any kind of hope in addiction. And those numbers will continue to grow drastically worldwide. There's not one country on the map that I can say this one has it higher than the other, because all our numbers are just off the charts. Everywhere you look, I don't care where you're sitting at on the map. The numbers of suicide because of mental illness, and the numbers for an overdose or a coma because of addiction, those numbers are just off the tracks, off the chart, worldwide. And I don't care where you're at. I don't care if you live in a suburb where you're at. The numbers are off the charts there. I don't care if you're in a city. The numbers are off the charts there. It doesn't matter your lifestyle. It doesn't matter where you're sitting at. That's not going to stop a mental illness from coming your way in your neighborhood. That's not going to stop any type of drug or addiction to come into your neighborhood. Because the mental illness and addiction is everywhere worldwide. Some of them are out in the, in the city you go and there's addiction out in the front. Everyone does their stuff out and no one hides it. The suburbs, everything is behind closed doors. It doesn't mean it's not there. They just have different fancier ways to do it and get it. But it doesn't mean that it's not there. The same thing with mental illness. The mental illness in the city or in certain places, they don't hide it. They'll talk about it and they'll say, look, my child or my daughter or my niece or my mom is going through this, so there's more people involved, there's more people that know what's going on. But in the suburbs, a lot of the mental illness is closed behind doors. All of the, hurting themselves and all that is behind closed doors. So we don't know what's going on, so we think it's not out there in the suburbs. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And, we have to stop this stigma where we think that things only happen in certain areas. If you stay away from that area, you won't be hit. You're not going to be walking through somebody getting high or someone drunk. Or you're not going to see that, or your child's not going to see that, or you're not going to see that as an individual, because as long as you stay away from the city, you're going to be okay. Or you stay away from this part of the country, you're going to be okay. Because that only happens in this part of the country or this part of the town where you live at. You can only live, cities or places like that. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. And I'm a living fact of that. I grew up in the city of Camden. I grew up in an underserved community. I didn't raise my kids in the city of Camden, and I didn't raise my kids in an underserved community. I never lived in an area in the suburbs where the homes were less than $500,000 homes. Never. But I'm a parent from the suburbs with a child that dealt with this. So I'm here to tell you that no, it doesn't matter where you're at in the world. suburbs or underserved community. Mental illness is real, no matter where you're at. And addiction is real, no matter where you're at. So never say never, and never judge others because of where they're living, or where they're from, or where they're sitting at today. Because none of that matters. None of that matters. And the reason why I said that, because I know a lot of stigma and a lot of things out there in this world are judgmental. And people feel as though that if you're brought up a certain way or you live in a certain area, you're not affected by certain things. And I'm not telling you something that I'm hearing from someone, and I'm not telling you something that I've seen. I'm telling you my real life. And I'm telling you that's not true. Because like I said again, as a parent that dealt with this for many years with a child, again, I was raised in an underserved community, but my child was not. One of the richest places you can live in, I have lived there. And my child has suffered with mental illness and addiction. So for someone to say, as long as you stay away from those areas, or you stay away from those type of people, you won't be affected. I'm here to tell you it's not true. Mental illness and addiction can hit anyone at any time, no matter who you are or where you come from. So please, be kind to the people that you know, be kind to your neighbors, be kind to people you just walk by in the streets. Because you just never know really what's going on with that person. And never judge them because of the way they look. Because that does not matter. Not when it comes to mental illness or an addiction. So with that being said, I just really hope that anyone that was listening to me today was someone that really needed to hear this. Because I'm just true. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you about anything or say something because I think a listener wants to hear it. No, I'm just being honest. That's who I am. So with that being said, I just want to say that, if you're following me, you know that I support the mental illness and addiction 200%. I'm always looking to add on members, add on volunteers, because my services and my tools and resources are accessible worldwide. There's nowhere in a map that you can be and you're not going to be able to get to me or to my tools and resources. They're available worldwide. And because of that, I know that no matter how big my team is or no matter how concrete I have my services built, it's never going to be enough. So if you're out there and you want to volunteer and your heart is really in it to support the mental illness or an addiction, please reach out to me. Let's make this happen. Let's make this movement stronger. If you're a licensed therapist, if you're a licensed counselor, or you just want to be an advocate to help, reach out to me. Get on my website or get on this podcast you're on right now. DM me. Find me a way to get a hold of me. If you're on my website, www.you'renotalone.online, all the ways that you can get a hold of me are monitored 24/7. Just find a place with internet and get on my site. Use our services. Use our tools and resources. They're free. Or pass them along to someone that you know can use them. It's just, it really takes us to really come together and not try to fight the world, on our own to help these individuals. Whether you have the same organization like I do, let's get together. Let's get this information out. Make the movement stronger. Because if you're doing what I'm doing, then your mind is where mine is. And that's helping individuals struggling with mental illness or an addiction. Let's make it stronger. Let's get this worldwide even bigger. If you know that in your community they can benefit from these services, or they can just benefit from this talk, let me know. we'll make an event. We'll make an event happen in your area, in your community. Let me know, because that's what I'm about. That's why I started this podcast. That's why I started my organization. Is to help. I'm not out there trying to ask anyone for anything or try to get my name or my business. No, I'm out here to help you. And if your community can help, if your community needs my help or can benefit from what my services are providing or my advocates are providing, let me know. Because we would definitely have an event out where you live at and get this help out to your community. I talk to people all the time because I really do. Whether it's on the phone, in the community, whether it's online, I'm always talking to somebody. The day, I don't have enough time in the day to really tell you the truth. I really don't. With so much that I'm doing and so much that I'm trying to get done, I really don't have enough in one day. But regardless of all that I'm doing in one day, whether it's for this organization or another business that I have, I always take time to show up for individuals that have a mental illness or show up for individuals that have an addiction. I will always have time for this. Always. No matter what life brings on to me every day, I will have time for this. So if you need us in any type of way, even maybe it's not our services, maybe it's not our tools and resources, maybe you just want to bring some new information to us, and maybe you just want to send something our way or collaborate with us in some way to really make this movement stronger or bring some more information out to the light for individuals that can benefit from it, let me know. Because I'm telling you right now, any information that you bring over, send my way, would never go to waste. Knowledge is power. I don't waste knowledge. Never. So with that being said, I just want to say thank you to everyone that has been supporting me on this journey, that has been supporting me with my cause, helping mental illness. Everyone is dealing with that struggle, or anyone is dealing with the struggle of addiction. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. I really do. And even maybe I don't say it enough, but I do. I really, really appreciate everyone's help. I don't care how little you think your help is, it's being appreciated from the bottom of my heart. Because, this fight, because I say this is really what it is a fight. To get this help out worldwide to these beautiful souls that are dealing with this addiction and dealing with this mental illness. It's just like fighting through the storm, because it's hard. It's hard for them. It really is. It really is. And it's hard for the caregivers. It's hard for their loved ones. It's hard for their family. And a lot of them are dealing with this on their own and not knowing how to get support. And it does a lot of damage to families, to individuals. They don't know how to cope with this. And before they get the help, there's so much damage that's done within that family, with just that individual, before they're able to come up for air, for hope. And I'm just trying to reach these individuals, these families, before the damage just takes them down where they can't come back up from. And I just want to be able to wrap my hands around them and just bring my tools and my resources, my help to them before it gets worse. It's never too bad. Like I always say, don't take that statement in the wrong way. When I say that, I mean just before it does too much damage to families, because it really does. And if I can help them before the damage is done, that's a win. And it's still a win even if I help them after the damage. But, if we can just really help these families and these individuals before the damage really destroys them, that's what we want. And that's why I said if you can just pass this information along, even to people that you don't even know, even to people that you don't think is dealing with this, pass it along. Excuse me, because you don't really know. You really don't. Just pass the information along. Just pass it along. Share my podcast, share my social media, or just go on my website, share my link to the website. Let them figure it out if there's something on there that's going to help them. Because you're not going to know. But sometimes by just saying, oh, look, I seen this site, get on this site, they seem like they're really interested in what they're doing. Sometimes just bring it up like that. And let them get on there and figure out if this is the help that they want. That being said, I just want to say thank you. And really just closing with my statement like I always do. And hoping that really people wrap their minds around it like I did when I was going through with my loved one, and I had to really, really get strong with myself so no damage was done to our family. And that's just to really, really understand and accept that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. It happens. We're human beings. We're not supposed to be perfect. We're human beings. We make mistakes. Things happen in life. It's okay to not be okay. Regardless of what the flaw is that you're going through in life, it's okay. You're going to get through it. Because you're going to show up for yourself and you're going to make it happen. It's okay. But what's not okay, and that's for no one, I don't care where you're at. I don't care where you're sitting at right now. What's not okay is for you or your family to ever think that you have to struggle alone in the dark or in silence ever. That's not acceptable, and that's not what you have to do. It's not. Show up for yourself. Show up for your family. There's no shame, and there's no embarrassment. Get the help for what you need help with, either it's for yourself or a loved one. Get the help so that you can become healthy and strong, because you're able to get through this. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Until next time.